माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र षट हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत त्रिदंडी गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि श्री श्री गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 31st chapter, entitled The Movements of the Living Entities, verse 47. Tasmān na kārya santrāso, tasmān na kārya santrāso, na kārpaṇyaṁ na sambhramaḥ, na kārpaṇyaṁ na sambhramaḥ, buddhvā jīva-gatiṁ dhīra, buddhvā jīva-gatiṁ dhīro, mukta-saṅgaś caret iha, mukta-saṅgaś caret iha, tasmān na kārya santrāso, na kārpaṇyaṁ na sambhramaḥ. Buddhvā jīva-gatiṁ dhīro mukta-saṅgaś caret. Kāryaḥ santrāso buddhvā jīva-gatiṁ dhīro mukta-saṅgaś caret. tasmān kāryaḥ santrāso mukta-saṅgaś caret. tasmān kāryaḥ santrāso buddhvā jīva-gatiṁ dhīro mukta-saṅgaś caret. tasmān kāryaḥ santrāso sambhramaḥ. mukta-saṅgaś caret. tasmān kāryaḥ santrāso na kārpaṇyaṁ na sambhramaḥ. mukta-saṅgaś caret. Vaishnavis. tasmān kāryaḥ santrāso na kārpaṇyaṁ na sambhramaḥ. mukta-saṅgaś caret. tasmān kāryaḥ santrāso na kārpaṇyaṁ na sambhramaḥ. mutvā jīva-gatiṁ dhīro mukta-saṅgaś caret. Translation. Synonyms. Tasmāt, on account of death. Na, not. Kāryaḥ, should be done. Santrāso, horror. Na, not. Kārpaṇyaṁ, miserliness. Na, not. Sambhramaḥ, eagerness for material gain. Buddhvā, realizing. Jīva-gatiṁ, the true nature of the living entity. Dhīraḥ, steadfast. Mukta-saṅgaḥ, free from attachment. Caret, one should move about. Iha, this world. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Therefore, one should not view death with horror, nor have recourse to defining the body as soul, nor give way to exaggeration in enjoying the bodily necessities of life. Realizing the true nature of the living entity, one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. Purport. A sane person who has understood the philosophy of life and death is very upset upon hearing of the horrible, hellish condition of life in the womb of the mother or outside of the mother. But one has to make a solution to the problems of life. A sane man should understand the miserable condition of this material body. Without being unnecessarily upset, he should try to find out if there is a remedy. The remedial measures can be understood when one associates with persons who are liberated. It must be understood who is actually liberated. The liberated person is described in Bhagavad-gītā, one who engages in uninterrupted devotional service to the Lord, having surpassed the stringent laws of material nature, is understood to be situated in Brahman. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond the material creation. It is admitted even by impersonalists like Shankaracharya that Narayana is transcendental to this material creation. As such, when one actually engages in the service of the Lord in various forms, either Narayana or Radha Krishna or Sita Ram, he is understood to be on the platform of liberation. The Bhagavatam also confirms that liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position. Since a living entity is eternally the servitor of the Supreme Lord, when one seriously and sincerely engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is situated in the position of liberation. One should try to associate with a liberated person, and then the problems of life, namely birth and death, can be solved. While discharging devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, one should not be miserly. He should not unnecessarily show that he has renounced this world. Actually, renunciation is not possible. If one renounces his palatial building and goes to a forest, there is actually no renunciation, for the palatial building is a property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the forest is also the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he changes from one property to another, that does not mean that he renounces. He was never the proprietor of either the palace or the forest. Renunciation necessitates renouncing the false understanding that one can lord it over material nature. When one renounces this false attitude and renounces the puffed up position that he is also God, that is real renunciation. Otherwise, there is no meaning of renunciation. Rupa Goswami advises that if one renounces anything which could be applied in the service of the Lord and does not use it for that purpose, that is called Falgu Vairagya, insufficient or false renunciation. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore everything can be engaged in the service of the Lord. Nothing should be used for one's sense gratification. That is real renunciation. Nor should one unnecessarily increase the necessities of the body. We should be satisfied with whatever is offered and supplied by Krishna without much personal endeavor. We should spend our time executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That is the solution to the problem of life and death. Translation one more time. Therefore, one should not view death with horror, nor have recourse to defining the body as soul, nor give way to exaggeration in enjoying the bodily necessities of life. Realizing the true nature of the living entity, one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. Hare Krishna. So as Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, that he starts with this line, a sane person who has understood the philosophy of life and death, and the translation says, one should not view death with horror. If you come to think of it, how is it even possible for somebody who is entangled in this material world? This chapter is about all, this chapter and the previous chapter is all about a jiva is entangled in the material world with materialistic life, with body, family. Of course, we have family, we have all this, we can say property and assets. But the point here, and in this chapter, throughout, Kapila Dev is explaining that if one gets attached to that, then the outcome is quite horrifying, because one is so much attached to the body that he does not want to leave that. And when the death comes, he becomes completely like horrified, completely frightened. And it's natural it's natural that one is attached to the body, because he thinks he is the body and all that. So the question is, how is that one would not view the death with horror, or one who has understood the philosophy of life? That is only possible when he gets the association of devotee. And that's what Prabhupada mentions here, that one should not become upset and just keep on lamenting about it. The remedy Prabhupada mentions is association with that person, not any ordinary person. Because if you're going to get associated with any other ordinary person, he will not be able to pull. So there is an analogy given in the scriptures that the jiva is suffering in this ocean and he's trying to keep himself afloat, not sink in the water, and he's calling for help, save me, save me. And then there is a person up above, so he's drowning in the well, and there's a person standing on the ground, and he has a rope, right? He has a rope, so he can throw that rope, and if that person catches, then that person can pull him up. But if the person is just lamenting, I am suffering, I am in a misery, and if he does not think about solutioning of getting out that place, he will never catch that rope. And if he does not catch that rope, there is no hope of him coming up. Even though the person is wishing to pull him up, but he won't, because he is too much attached and entangled in his own life. But if by great fortune, Brahmande Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Beach, that the jiva who is going around in this material manifestation over and over again for millions and quadrillions of life, only by fortune he comes in contact with devotee, then his fortune arises. And that's what Prabhupada mentions here. The remedial measures can be understood when one associates with person who are liberated. Because if the person is not liberated, if he is not in a higher state, how can he pull a person from a state who is in a lower position, or things like that? So he has, but the person has to catch the rope, and that catching of the rope is like somebody investing his faith in the words of the liberated person, or somebody who is on a higher status of life. And Prabhupada mentions here that one who engages in uninterrupted devotional service to the Lord. Of course, this is the famous verse in Bhagavad-gītā, Mam chayo abhyabicharini bhakti yogena ja sevate sa gunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. That one who continuously engages himself in devotional service uninterruptedly can surpass the modes of material nature. Sa gunan samatityaitan. He surpasses all these modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and he attains what? Brahman. Brahman is the borderline of spiritual world, we can say, the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, Brahma Jyoti. But devotees does not even want that. Devotees don't even want liberation. So in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami, he compares devotees as makara fish. Right? Makaras are very beautiful fish. They have a head of an elephant, a tail of a peacock, very beautiful eyes. So if you go to ancient Indian temples, you will have some of this, depicting makaras. So these makara fishes, they are very, very intelligent. They always swim in the deep ocean. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. They always want to enjoy the deeper oceans. They don't want to float superficially in the surface of the water. They want to go down, down, down and get to the deeper portions of the ocean. Why? Rupa Goswami says 3 reasons. One, because they don't want to be caught by fisherman's net. If a fisherman puts his net in the ocean, then if a fish is swimming in the surface, he is more vulnerable to get caught and he will be, out of that ocean, which means he is falling into Maya. So these devotees are actually swimming so deep, they don't want to, swim in the liberation also, in the Brahman. They don't want to be there. He also says that the devotees don't want to swim in the rivers which actually come and merge in the ocean. They don't want to swim in the rivers. And these rivers are compared to different liberations. Salokya, Samipya, Sashti. Salokya means you live together in the Supreme Lord in His own world. Samipya means to live near to Supreme Lord. And of course, in this previous verses, Kapila Dev mentions that devotee gives up this liberation also. They don't want even liberation. So one of the qualities of bhakti is moksha laguta krit. That once the devotee attains bhava stage, he gives up liberation. He says, I don't even want liberation. I just want uninterrupted service of the Lord. And that's what, Prabhupada is also mentioning here. Anyways, and so the makara fish, so the devotees are like makara fish. They want to swim in the deeper oceans of what? Bhakti Rasamrita. Because as you go deeper in bhakti, the rasa comes in. Rasa means having that relationship with Krishna. Of course, one who starts, for all of us, maybe some of you are in advanced, I am not, but somebody like me who just started the bhakti, it is just the sadhana stage. And when you go to bhava, that's when you're able to realize Krishna. Like you can actually see Krishna, but it is not permanent. For example, the 6th chapter of 1st canto, the story of Narada Muni. Narada got a darshan of the Supreme Lord. But then he said, I am going to disappear now and I will not appear to you until your next life. So that's like an example of bhava stage. When somebody reaches bhava, he can perceive Krishna, he can realize Krishna. And that's where your rasa or your relationship with Krishna starts to manifest more and more. And it gets completely matured as a full ripened fruit in the stage of prema. But the point is, I think Prabhupada mentions here that somebody should not renunciate, what is that called, without the knowledge. I think Rupa Goswami mentions in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu again that do not renounce like Falgu Vairagya, Anasaktasya Vishayan, so on and so forth, because that without that is different verse. Prapanchikatya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna nirbandhe Krishna sambandhe vairagyam falgu uchyate. That somebody who renounces thinking that this is my property, actually he is not the owner, the supreme proprietor is Krishna, but if he renounces something that I am the owner and then he renounces, unnecessarily, that is phalgu vairagya. That is not the ideal situation. The situation is the remedy is how the assets or properties of one's own belongings can be engaged in the Krishna's service. Yukta vairagyam. And that is what is Rupa Goswami is mentioning, Prabhupada is mentioning, referring to Rupa Goswami's definition in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Prabhupada mentions here, while discharging devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. How is that possible? That somebody can always be engaged in full Krishna consciousness. And when it comes to engagement, I think I wanted to speak a little bit about mukta-saṅgaḥ. Here this verse says mukta-saṅgaḥ caret iha, which means one should move about in the world free from attachment and steadfast in purpose. How is that somebody can become free from attachment? Mukta-saṅgaḥ. So I think in Bhagavad-gītā it says yajna arthat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta-saṅgaḥ samachara. That if one engages all his activities in the service of yajna purusha, yajna does not just mean fire sacrifice. Yajna comes from the word yaj. Yaj means to worship. And somebody who engages all his activities in worshipping Krishna, then he becomes free from this material world. Otherwise he becomes entangled. Lokoyam karma bandhana. He becomes entangled. Bandhana means he becomes more and more bonded to the loka of this world. But if he engages whatever he has meaningfully for the pleasure of the Lord, then he becomes liberated. But that will not come automatically. That will only come through the association of devotees. I think in the previous verses, Kapila Dev is telling Devahuti that only by the association and service to the devotees or liberated person, one can actually get liberation, or his doors to liberation gets opened up. And it is also mentioned in Rishabh Dev prayers that only by service to Mahatmas one can actually get liberation. Mahat sevam dvaramahur vimuktes tamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam mahantaste samachitta prashanta vimanyavaya suhrida sadhavaye. Because these liberated persons, they have prashanta, they are very, very peaceful, and samachitta. They see everybody as equal. They don't see you are white, you are black, you are Indian, you are American. For them, everybody is equal because they see the spirit soul in them. And because of that equality of vision, they want to distribute this mercy of Krishna to them. And once that happens, they get the highest destination, which is mukta-saṅgaḥ. But in this world which is full of all materialistic concept, how is it possible for us to get this knowledge? It is impossible. And it was literally impossible until Sriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he appeared. So it is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that one day in spiritual world, two brothers, they took up, chisels and hammers and all that. And they went to a place which is a treasure house. And this treasure house is obviously locked up with big, big locks because it stores very precious gems. And that precious gems, these two brothers, they were breaking the lock. I want to open. And when they opened it, they started giving it out freely to all the people in this world. And those two brothers are Gaur Nityananda, because they started this movement of giving Harinam, Krishna's name. That Harinam is actually the only solution for mukta-saṅgaḥ. It is said that even if you do donation of cows, like 10 million cows, if you donate on an eclipse, donation on an eclipse day is very, very auspicious. Or even if you reside in a very auspicious place like Prayagraj, where recently the Kumbh Mela happened, if you reside there for millions and quadrillions of years, and if you what is the third? And if you donate a lot of gold to the size of Meru mountain, all these activities of charity and donation, even if you do that, one does not even earn 100 part of chanting Hare Krishna. So if you just chant once Hare Krishna, you are doing 100 times of all these charities and all that. It does not mean you stop doing charity, but we have to do charity in the right way of course, Krishna says the best charity is to give your property in service of me, Krishna, he is declaring. So it's very, very clear that this mukta-saṅgaḥ, if somebody is interested, then that comes only with association of devotees. And in that association of devotees, if one is fortunate to hear Hare Krishna and to receive Hare Krishna, and then he himself start to chant Hare Krishna, that Nam Sankirtan is the most simplest yet the most powerful process which can give him liberation. So it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kaler dosho nidhe rajan hasti eko mahad guna kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta-saṅgaḥ param vrajet. Again mukta-saṅgaḥ param vrajet, that one can get liberation from this bondage of material life by chanting the Supreme Lord's name. But that is not the only thing. Bhagavatam clearly says, Kirtanad eva Krishnasya. Of course, one can chant name of any of the forms of Supreme Lord. They can chant, I think here Prabhupada mentions, various forms of Narayana, Sita, Ram and Radha, Krishna. All are powerful. When Ajamil chanted Narayana, he got all his sinful reactions vanquished. Past, present, future sinful reactions were all gone. Padma Puran says that even if somebody engages in worship of Vishnu, his sinful reactions of current life, prarabdha, aprarabdha, everything goes, and this happens only in bhakti. But the point is, Krishna's name is more powerful. I think in one of those Vishnu Sahasranam, it says, Sri Rama Rama Ramedi Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Dattulyam Rama Nama Varanane. That one name of Rama is equivalent to 1,000 names of Vishnu. You can of course chant Vishnu's name, but Rama's name is more powerful because it manifests more qualities. But then in, is it Brahmanda Puran? It is said that one name of Krishna is 3 times powerful as the name of Rama, which means if you chant once Hare Krishna, it is equivalent to chanting 3,000 names of Vishnu. So of course you can chant any names, these are all beneficial, but one who is intelligent, he will choose Krishna because of course there are many reasons. But this is not just Krishna, we are chanting Hare and Krishna. Hare is Radha. As somebody calls Radha with loving as Radhe, Hara becomes Hare. To satisfy Hare Krishna, when we chant, we are not just attaining liberation, as just talks about attaining Brahman. It is going beyond that. It is going into the spiritual world. But not just that, it does not stop there. It is actually taking you to the highest position, which is attaining Krishna. But then wait, not just only Krishna, Radha and Krishna. That is the supreme gift which a liberated person has given to us. And that is none other than Srila Prabhupada. When he started chanting in Tompkins Square Park, whoever had the faith and took up the process, all of them are liberated now. In the sense that, of course, they have the material body, but at least the conscious is liberated. Anyways, I see the time is almost up. So I wanted to just summarize on this point that mukta-saṅgaḥ, which means if somebody wants liberation from this material bondage and all that, of course there are various processes. One can take jnana, yoga, they can achieve Brahman. But If somebody wants to achieve the highest destination which gives them highest bliss, highest sweetness, highest rasa, that rasa is only by chanting Krishna's name. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Suddho Nitya Mukto Abhinatva Nama Namino. This Nama of Krishna is actually Chintamani, which is a philosopher's stone. It can give you anything, but it can also give you Prema, Krishna Prema, which can actually give you the highest destination of Radha and Krishna. And that can only come if somebody gets an association and hears Bhagavatam and understands the true conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. By reading Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees, Satam Prasanga Namavirya Sammido, so on and so forth. So that is a summary that one should understand the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam in the right mood as described by Srila Prabhupada and in the association of pure devotees. Hare Krishna. Any reflections, any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. In regards to renunciation, obviously Yukta Vairagya was discussed in Prabhupada's purport, but then we understand that, really advanced devotees, they know how to use everything in Krishna's service. But my understanding of Yukta Vairagya is that, we accept those things favorable for the execution of devotional service, and we reject those things which are unfavorable, which obviously there are definitely things unfavorable. So someone who's like on the Uttama Adhikari platform, do they see anything which is rejectable in Krishna's service, or can they find a way to use everything?
It's a good question. I think in the Upadesh Amrita, there Rupa Goswami is describing these definitions and the levels of Kanishta, Madhyama and Uttama Adhikari. And in somewhere there, Rupa Goswami is saying that Uttama Adhikari is that person who is actually seeing everybody is a devotee. He does not even discriminate that you are a devotee and you are a non-devotee and whatever. So for Uttama Adhikari, he is in prema. He does not have this mood of preaching. And Uttama Adhikari, because he is in prema, he is full-time engaged in his bhakti, in his engagement to rendering service to Krishna. Does he see or discriminate that this is favorable, this is non-favorable? Of course, because he is in prema, he is now free from all those which are unfavorable to bhakti. He is not even in contact with them. But then when they roam around and then they see different, I think it's described in Rishabdev when he was like a mad person roaming around in the forest, not even with clothes, because they're not even material concept of life. They don't even care about this body. If they are not even caring about this body and does not see anybody who is like, he's a non-devotee, he's a devotee, there is no discrimination there. So ideally, he's not even preaching. So he himself, he's now in pastimes of Radha and Krishna, even in the material body, so to say. But because he's in prema, now he is like into his consciousness is fully in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, or it can be other forms of the Lord also. So my understanding is he will probably just not discriminate. He will just see everything as property of Krishna and then engage that. Of course, he may still use his intelligence. That does not mean he loses his intelligence, but I think he will intelligently only use what is favorable. So it's quite difficult to explain, because how do you know what's going on in the mind of prema, or somebody who's attained prema having those what is that manifestation of those qualities of perspiration and rolling on the ground. It's very difficult to understand what's going on. So it's difficult to say, but my understanding is he will still use his intelligence, because Krishna will give him all his intelligence. So
you know the verse, Yomam
Pashyati. Yes, 6:30. Yeah. So another example where he is seeing Krishna everywhere. And I think in the purport, Prabhupada writes that this is the actual sign of a pure devotee, which is who is in prema. He will see Krishna everywhere, and he will try to engage those which are, he can engage them. Yes, Prabhu. Rabindranath.
Yeah, so he's saying that Uttamadhikari, he doesn't make any discrimination. But if he's performing a certain type of service to Krishna, doesn't he still have the discrimination to offer the best to Krishna?
Offer the best to Krishna, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so he's an Uttamadhikari, he doesn't make distinction between like a devotee and non-devotee. I understand that, but as far as when he's offering service to Krishna, doesn't he have discrimination? Well, Krishna likes this better than that, or I should make this thing a certain way because Krishna likes this, or does he have no discrimination in that either?
As I said, it is very difficult to understand the mood of prema, because how do we understand? We don't have premi bhaktis. Prema bhaktas are very, very rare. So if Uttamadhikari is a prema bhakta, then and I think in Uttamadhikari there could be, I think, grades also. Like for example, somebody who is, so sadhana, bhava and prema, if they are in the highest stage of prema where they actually have developed spiritual senses, they can see Krishna, they can talk to Krishna, they can touch Krishna, because they are perceiving, if they will know what Krishna wants. And as I said, they will use spiritual intelligence to choose what to offer. Of course, they are still in this material world, they are living here, but it's very difficult to understand that they will not discriminate and offer everything which is, or even if it is not favorable to Krishna. So it's quite natural for them, because they love Krishna, they will offer only the best items to Krishna.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because I'm thinking in the 10th canto probably explains in one of the purports that Krishna gives a devotee intelligence to understand what to do first and what to do after that. So I'm thinking Krishna would give the intelligence to the devotee, or is that just in the neophyte platform?
Even I think one attains prema, he is still dependent on Krishna. So somebody who attains prema and even they reach spiritual world, they are still depending on Krishna, because they have so much of possession of Krishna. They don't want to lose him even for a sight. Of course, there are separation and reunion, but the intelligence, in one sense we can say, it all belongs to Krishna himself, because everything comes from Krishna. So even if a premi bhakta has the intelligence, that intelligence is also coming from Krishna only. I think you are mentioning about the 10th chapter verse where Krishna says, I give you the intelligence. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. If you are mentioning this verse, that is more for a sadhaka, that he is trying to understand Krishna, and as you give one step to Krishna, he gives more intelligence so that you can go nearer to him. But even if somebody attains sadhana, bhava and prema stage also, he will still have this spiritual intelligence, because everything comes from Krishna.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. तंत्रा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल.